Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule and make time for this call. I would like to start with introduction. I myself is Ntuchi, but my government calls me Emmanuel. I'm a technology enthusiast with a background in computer engineering, and currently I work as a operation lead at a startup company called Irabu. I'm one of the co-founders as well. Apart from that, I'm part of the organizing team at PyCon Tanzania, which Noah will talk a little bit about it. And our vision and mission is to grow the PyCon community in Tanzania. So we have different level of engagement activities that we have at our community, and we'll make sure that we share all these details later before the call ends. Noah, Kaka Noah, can you introduce yourself real quickly, and then I'll carry to the next moderator. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mtuchi. Yeah, my name's Noah. I've been in the industry for the last 15 plus years, working in different companies, currently working with the subsea cable system. But I volunteer for a number of course, capacity building and tech-related events around the continent and in Tanzania, specifically where me and Mtuchi and the rest of the other volunteers organize the Python conference, which we call PyCon, which is basically collaborating with Beam Africa to organize and deliver this specific webinar on APIs. So this is our involvement as at now, but essentially that is all about me, and karibuni-san. Thanks, Mtuchi. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Kaka Noah. That was really nice. Joshua is a technology enthusiast like me, so please, Joshua, tell us a little bit about yourself. The floor is yours. Hi, Josh. Sorry, can't hear you. Is the mic on already? Okay, we can come back to Joshua. I think he's having some mic issue. Dada Messi, please, the stage is yours. Please tell us your name and what you do. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mercy, and I'm the marketing and the digital marketing person at Beam. Beam is the company that's organizing the Beemathon challenge, of course, in collaboration with PyCon Tanzania. So I'm really looking forward to the webinar and to engage with all of you.
Thank you so much, Dada Messi. Ta, if you can go next. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Taha. I'm the founder of Beam. And I think we're all excited to be kicking off the Beemathon and learning more about APIs from Yesai and Khadija from this webinar. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Ta. My personal favorite hero, Khadija. Can you go next, please? Okay, Khadija, if you can hear me, can you go next? Okay, I don't know if I'll do your bio justice, but I'll try my level best. So Khadija, she's one of our panelists today, and she's a civic technologist and data science enthusiast. She works at Code for Africa, and she's really passionate about empowering people to use technology for public good. Just fun fact, and this is coming from her. I'm quoting her what she says about fun fact. If I could eat one food for the rest of the whole week, would be egg and avocado toast. That's a fun fact about Khadija. Thank you so much, Khadija, for joining us. We'll share more details about you later. Yesaya, if you could introduce yourself and give us a little bit about yourself, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay, hi everyone. Well, my name is Yesaya. I am a software developer and I'm working at the port. I love programming, and that's why I take so much time to even discuss and share experience with others. So you can find me on YouTube at Yesaya Software, where I do teach the programming and also collect feedback from other people to see how, as a country, we can push forward to build a community of developers that can be able to help each other. So that's what I really love to do. And if I'm not coding, then I'll be with my sons. That's a fun fact. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yesaya. That was a really interesting fun fact. I wonder for us who are single, what you can say in our fun facts. Anyways, without further ado, I would like to start this session with some ground rules. We'll be taking questions, and Messi will be helping me with a question. So if you have any question during the session, you can write the question in the chat, and then Messi will help me collect those questions. One of the things that I like to tell people, there are no stupid questions. We are all here to learn. So please feel free to write any question that you have. So that's one of the ground rules that I would like to set for this session. So before I begin, sorry, Josh, is your mic working already? Can you introduce yourself? Oh, yes, we can hear you now. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Mtucci, for the opportunity. Hey guys, my name is Joshua. I'm a technologist, enthusiast, but also practitioner. I write code just like everyone else here. Super excited about Beam APIs. Super excited about what we're going to learn. Super excited about what Hadija and Yesaya are going to share about their experience using APIs, working in the tech industry. What can I say? I just can't wait. Yeah, back to you, Tuch.
Oh, thank you so much, Josh. That was really nice to hear about your bio. So let me begin the webinar by highlighting the main objective of this webinar. So the main objective of this webinar is to initiate the dialogue with developer and stakeholders about API. Because the use case of API is to shaping mobile economy, or to help technologists kind of like try to bring in different technologies together. So I would like to start with a question that I would direct this to Yesaya. So for those who have joined us, maybe they don't have a clear background of what API is. So Yesaya, can you at least tell us what is API and why do we have them? Hello? Yesaya, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mtucci. I think you were breaking, so I didn't get to hear very well your question. Please, can you repeat?
Oh, okay. I'm so sorry. So let me repeat the questions. As I was saying, the main objective for this dialogue is to learn more about APIs and how developers, they can use this API to transform different technologies. So maybe to begin is, what is API and why do we need them in software industry?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mtucci, and I really appreciate for the time and the organization that Beam has brought forward for developers. I think this is one of the great initiatives for bringing together the developer to discuss the idea that really matter to developer. I really appreciate that this initiative has taken place and being at the forefront to make sure that we all developer taking part in the API. First off, maybe I could describe the API as to give like a little background. Most of the organization or most of the software prematurely were developed that to work on to solve their own problem. For example, if you are working in one organization, maybe you have some HR issues that you want to address. So you will only focus on that area, but also maybe another company have another challenge, maybe selling of agricultural product. Then they could be focusing on their problem. But with time, we know that this system needed to communicate to each other. So we have another company that has or is providing one service, while the other company provide another service, which may relate to or may interrelate to each other. So the API come in place to make sure that we connect these systems to make sure that there is a service that can be shared across these industry, like these companies and everything. So from the acronym by itself, API is Application Program Interface. So the aim is to connect different systems to make sure that they communicate. I believe that most of us can give the testimony of how the payment right now here in Tanzania, for example, in M-Pesa, which you can interface with your system if you are selling, let's say, T-shirts. For example, I want to sell the T-shirt, maybe I could write some programming ideas, so build a website. But in order to sell to the people and to make sure that the payment is streamlined and smooth, I need to interface with the mobile payment. And I'm glad that the Beam has API for that, which can really take advantage. And this is just one of the areas that this API now can take shape here in Tanzania. But there are a number of issues that we might need in the near future, like the use of IoT to communicate with Internet of Things. The devices that we hold need to communicate. So API can really play a huge part in addressing these challenges, and therefore can be able to push the economy of our country and in the world at large. So that's, I think, the brief about API for what I understand.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you so much. You have answered really well, because you have covered the why, you have covered the benefit, you have covered the history behind API. That was really interesting. So perhaps, Khadija, maybe you can answer this one. I know around the software industry, you need to have best practice to anything that you do, being a software, a program that you write. So I believe even in API, there are best practice that can go around it. So perhaps, Khadija, can you answer this? What is the best practice to write a good API?
Hey, hello. I'm so sorry. Like I can really hear you guys in a very bad. So I'm not sure if it's my speakers or what.
Oh, I can repeat the question.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
A little bit, yeah, but I'll try my best. Yeah.
Okay. So I was wondering, I know that you have worked with several APIs, and I'm interested to know if they are best practice, because I know the best practice in anything. Like if you work in a team, you have to follow some style guideline, some standard guideline to achieve the goal that you want to achieve. So I was wondering if there are best practice when it comes to API.
Yes, sure. So as I said, I described really in depth what API is and what it does. So there are practices that are there. I mean, some of them are very well documented as well, and any developers can learn them as they work, as they practice, as developing these APIs. So I could mention a few which are there. So for instance, APIs needs to be very well documented. So you need to have, say, what what API, what URLs are there, what endpoints are there of your API, what are they doing, are they readable, things like availability as well. So you need to have, so when you're building an API, you need to consider things like availability, like how we're gonna say provide this endpoint for this customer, things like access points and so on. So these are just some examples of how best to write your APIs. So most importantly, which are they? First, when you're talking about best practice of anything, you first consider your personas who are using your API. So say I'm a developer, I want to use your API. Can a developer quickly get a certain information or quickly go through your API and understand what it does or what it provides? So things like this. So make sure your API are very well documented, they're readable, and if it's like version controlling, if there's a need for version control. What else? So those are just a few of them.
Thank you so much, Khadija. Thank you so much. Maybe a follow-up on that. You mentioned something really interesting, and for a minute I got into thinking. You mentioned the documentation is the most key important thing, and I would imagine, yeah, that is really important because you need to tell someone how to use this thing. You need to tell someone how to solve challenges that they might face using this thing. And you
Yeah.
mentioned version controlling. So perhaps are there tools to achieve all these things? Because I know you mentioned there's a documentation part, you mentioned version controlling. Are there tools that you can use to have a proper documentation and other things that you have mentioned?
Okay, so what we have used currently, what I've used so far for documentation and versionings are just things like GitHub repository, and as well as just like your application interface, so sort of like your website where you have okay, so it depends as well also with your framework also. So I've used a lot of Django REST API. So you have a framework that some sort of like assists you in how to structure your documentation as well as your API rules, each of them, like what are they, which ones are available, and the description of them as well. So if that's what you, that's what you asked.
Okay, thank you so much. So I caught something interesting when you were saying about when you're talking about the API. You mentioned when you're doing REST API. So I'm gonna direct this question to Yesaya. In terms of security, I know I haven't worked with early version of API. There are 3 that I know in my head. I don't know if there's more than that. There's REST, there's RPC, and there's SOAP. So in terms of security, maybe what are the best practice when it comes to approach this API? Or if you have worked with older versions, or other types of API, are there security concern, and what are the best practice that you can go about when it comes to security?
Okay, maybe I'll try to switch on my video. I don't know if network will do me good because I see some people asking to see. Okay, I think I'm unable to do that. Okay.
Okay. Do you want to share your screen?
No, the video. I think people want to see. I don't know if
your
network
face.
will. Yeah.
So we have shared your banner here so they can see you. I don't know if that will be enough, but for now, I think that will do.
Okay, I think that's fine. Okay. You asked me about the security issues regarding the API, and I would like to address that in two areas, which I think it is very important when you are thinking about the security of the API. But before that, I think you mentioned the three API types, but recently I think we have something called the GraphQL. It is also becoming famous right now. It is true about, I think I started to see the API in the beginning of SOAP, that I think that was my early days to understand about the API. So SOAP actually we're using some kind of XML to be able to communicate between this system. But back to the security point, I think what I can say is first we need to make sure that the communication itself should be secured. And here you can do one thing maybe to make sure that you encrypt that communication so that even someone want to intercept in the middle to understand that what are the two parties trying to communicate, and probably this person can modify that communication. So we need to do encryption of this communication. The data to be shared between the two parties should be encrypted. And here there are two, I think. The famous one is AES. It is Advanced Encryption Standard. That is actually making sure that the communication between the two parties is encrypted. And these are famous algorithm, I think, for those who are studying computer science, have studied those algorithms for encryption, and the AES is one of them. And you can even encrypt them in either 256 or 128 bit to make sure that that communication is very secure when you transmit those data. And actually what is happening, we need two, let's say we need two keys, a private key and public key. And your receiver, you give them a public key, I think, so that when they try to communicate with you, we can verify that, okay, this is the person that I give this key to access this particular data. So I think that is very important to begin with, to make sure that you strengthen the security or the data that is being shared between the parties. Another thing maybe which I can try to emphasize regarding the security of API is to make sure that you control that communication by giving session tokens. When someone wants to access a certain resource, it is true that we know that this person has already maybe giving this private public key. So I know that this is someone, but I want to limit certain resources to be accessed by this particular person. That's when you can use something like a token to make sure that you know that this someone, maybe this account, by providing username and password, then you know that this particular person is allowed to access 1, 2, 3 resources, and only those resources should be accessed by this person. That means that we are able to control even the resources that are shared between the two parties, so that one cannot access something which is not allowed or is not probably is not allowed for him to access. And there I think I can share some two examples based on my experience. One is maybe you can try to use a JWT, and this based on OAuth. I think this is type of authorization using token which someone can take advantage of. But for those who are using Laravel like me, the PHP framework, which is very expressive, I think we are using Laravel Passport, which actually also is being built on top of OAuth 2, which actually give us access to identify who is trying to access these resources using this particular resource. I think someone also mentioned about Sanctime, and it is true also. It is one of the Laravel package to make sure that we are able to secure the communication and the resource for the application. Back to you, Mtuchi.
Wow, thank you so much, Yesaya. That was really brief and technical. So if to summarize what I understood is two techniques you can use. One of them is authentication, one of them is authorizations. And you have mentioned a couple of technologies that you can use for those cases. You have mentioned JWT, you have mentioned OAuth2, which is an industry standard protocol for authorizations. So maybe just a follow-up. Is this applicable to any type of API? I personally haven't worked with older versions of types of API like SOAP or RPC. I don't know how you can do authentication and authorization. I've worked with REST, and I know those two I know those two can be applied. Is this similar to any type of API you can authenticate and authorize?
Mtuchi, that's a tough question because, yeah, in the sense that back in SOAP, I think you put it very clear that there is authorization and authentication. So the encryption part, I think that can be done, I think, in all technology, because that is the encryption which the two parties agreed to use. So I think that can be applied in both parts. But for OAuth2, I think, I don't know, maybe it is, for JWT, I think it is mostly about JSON. So I think, like, I give another example regarding the passport. I think that is being for Laravel. So, but all of these, you can find out that they are using the OAuth2. There are standards which each domain or each programming language, they can take advantage and build on top libraries that can support a particular language. But I would like to emphasize something here, that with this API, it bridges the gap of programming language, of the technology behind. Maybe the API can be written in, let's say, in PHP, but someone else who will consume that data is using C#. So once we agree that the security or the encryption algorithm to be used between these parties, this irrespective of the programming language one is using, then from either point, we can be able to secure such communication between the two parties.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that one. So maybe let me shift the conversation to Khadija. I know you have talked. I know, Yesaya, you have talked a little bit about how the API can benefit the community, and you have given us examples like how mobile payment API now helps our community. So maybe, Khadija, as a woman in tech, what's your take? How APIs are shaping this digital economy? What's your take on that one? Do you think they're shaping it, or they're making life miserable? Because for some of us, we like to stick to one thing and grow with it, but now it's APIs. What's your take? Are they shaping the digital economy, or there's something else to it?
Yeah, thanks, Ntuchi. So yeah, I do believe that not only are they shaping the digital economy, but APIs are driving it. Like all this, say for instance, if you just look at our community currently right now, whereby there's an application where you have to pay through M-Pesa or Mobile Pesa, things like that. These here, the technology that's underlying them, it's actually API. So I have an app, so I'm a shopping app, but I'm able to pay through Tigo Pesa or just any other mobile money, or I'm in a bank, I'm doing some transaction through my phone. So all this is all API. So not only is it shaping, but it is driving the current digital economy as well. So I think, I mean, other than, like the API, how it's done, like it's a layer of security as well. Apart from it being the middle guy of, taking data from this point to this point or communicating between two applications, it's a security layer as well. And this is where now in the digital world is important to have. So you can't have a phone directly accessing to the entire bank, the bank architecture or something. So you have a layer there behind it, which is the API, and which is performing whatever transaction you have. So be it the bank, be it the fintech, be it the merchant, like API is what's driving the world up there currently. So yeah, I completely agree that it shapes us, and especially us women. Like you can see now, there's some discussion or just some research on how women are represented in the financial services, and mobile money, like using phone and mobile money, and just the whole I would say like transaction and so on is one of the things that are sort of like presented, or they are like we're being pushed women to be able to use such products, and within it we are interacting with APIs per se. So, yeah, that's my take on it.
Wow, thank you, Khadija. And maybe just a follow-up on that. I know you have emphasized as well on security, and I like your take on it's not only shaping, it's driving the economy. It's really interesting to know that. But I believe there are some challenge that you might have faced working with APIs or working in any kind of project per se. So can you share with us maybe what do you do when you have obstacles or challenges that you face when working with APIs? Can you share like how's your go-to strategy in terms of resources on how to solve those problems?
Yeah, so I would mention some of the challenges that I face using an API or even using an API. Okay, so for instance, with using, it goes side on side with best practice. So if an application, or if say an API fails to point out to me or to describe to me, or to even to give me a sample use case of what this URL can do, or what this endpoint can do, then it's left. It's me, the developer, who now has to do trials and errors to sort of like figure out what this API does. So things like when using an application, the challenge that you have, you find that most APIs do not have proper documentation or even the service level agreement. You've built your site, or you've built your this is service level agreement as well as availability as well. You've built your site 2 years or 3 years ago. Issues no worry, and you're confident that your API is gonna work. Maybe up until there's a version which still that needs communication. Next thing a few months in, or maybe 2 years later, this API endpoint is broken, things like that. Then now you have to go back again to your code and try to, understand, or this thing has failed. So these are the few of the challenges that are currently there, or while using API. You'd find not not properly documented, as I mentioned, or the service level agreement, availability. You'd find sometimes they're not available. Cross origin can also be an issue as well. Sometimes you find in fact, today I was actually, this is just an internal, but it's something that I was facing as well. I was building, I had a back end, but then the API that's communicating there is WP Graphql, and I'm having this major cross-origin issue that I need to fix. So you would find things like this are challenging to us developers. And this is the developer side, but also I would say the product owners you know, because they are the decision makers. So if they come to a person, you know, a developer like Joshua and tell them, Joshua, I want you to build me this, but then can they point out and say, this is what will get me there faster, you know, rather than going this route. Okay, so you'd find like most APIs are not telling you that, and you know, especially in our space, in African space, you know, we sort of like waste time in doing, in, you know, trying to find the right URLs or trying to find the right yeah, I'll say endpoint that will serve your use case.
Right, right. Okay. Thank you, Khadija, for sharing that. And I can relate. I think most of us who works with APIs can relate to that. You sometimes get to a point, there's a cross-origin error that you can solve. You run into poor documentation where there's a type of error that you can't fix. So I can certainly relate for that. Thank you for sharing that, Khadija, with us.
Yeah. So something like that, also like peer documentation, like you're having an error, but there's no proper
Yes.
output.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Khadija. So just quick announcement for those in the audience. If you have any question, please drop it in the chat. We'll be going to our Q&A session shortly. So if you have any question for the panelists regarding the matter that we are discussing today, please drop it in the chat, and then Messi will help correct that question, and then we can answer it in the Q&A session. So before we go to Q&A session, I just have one question to ask both of you, my guest panelists, and that will be maybe tell us, I just want to know for you guys, I know you're first challenging being a developer or developing things that work with API. So maybe as a take home, what would you tell our audience today working with API? Just like a word of wisdom, what would you tell your audience today? Yesaya, can you give us that one word of wisdom when it comes to working with API?
Yes. I was also having some issues at your last point, that a word of wisdom that I could tell to our speaker. Is it?
Yes. Do you want me to repeat the question, or you heard it?
Yeah, I think I heard that part. I think that's
Okay.
a question. Yeah,
Okay.
I think the word of wisdom, maybe, I don't know if it's a wisdom, but I think I have some few issues I think to address to everyone and see how the power of the API is. I think most of us are here in Tanzania, and we remembered some time ago we had the local issues and everything. But what I think we have also seen the number of people.
Hello? Can everyone hear Yesaya, or it's just me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, you dropped off. Can you? Yeah, you dropped off. Can you maybe repeat?
Okay.
Sorry.
Please ask me if you cannot hear me.
Okay, no problem.
I said that most of us remembered that we had some problems regarding the Luku, and we see a number of people who were short in those stations try to get the Luku and put it in the electricity meters. But what I want to say that we used to do that in the past to go to those areas, but with the power of API, the system there at I don't know, Tanisco, connect or open the APIs to communicate with banking, mobile money, and if the API are working correctly, or if this system communicate, you can imagine the transaction, how the change or the impact that it is to the community. And the matter also, the government is doing a great job regarding the national IDs. And a few years to come, I think most of us will go to different areas and your information will be already there, because you only give the national ID, and all information of yours, your background and history will all be available to those people. So what I wanted to address, that with this power of API, there are some people who might use this in a negative way, especially in the private data, so in the privacy of data. So once you have been exposed to these APIs, you must be ethical enough to make sure that you protect the data that of the people who shared with you. So to get those information means and use in another way, that is the challenge as a country we need to put together. And I see that the government is also trying to develop a policy for data protection, this privacy policy. And that is a huge concern all over the world, that a lot of data have been exposed in API and people trying to use this in a negative way. So that, I think it's something which I needed to share with everyone, that to see how API is really important. Is everybody is staying at home. Yeah, everybody is staying at home and also connect and to get to receive different services that they are requesting. So privacy of data is the key to where we are headed right now. We just scratch the surface with API. Back to you, Mtuchi.
Thank you, Yesaya. And I can maybe relate on the data policy concern, especially if you're working in with a lot of APIs, or if you're working with if you're building something like a software as a service kind of platform. It's really a concern on how you want to share that data. So I can relate. So thank you for sharing that. To you, Khadija, can you share one wisdom with us regarding the session?
So I've seen that most of the attendants are developers. One word of wisdom I would say is, let us embrace the APIs. You know, they make our work faster. You know, let us embrace them. There's no need for us to start building something from scratch, where there is a certain application or API endpoint that can provide you that information on that data. So let us embrace API, and yeah, and let's get moving in this digital economy.
Wow, thank you so much, Khadija. That was really interesting. I'm gonna take that as my inspiration for next week. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Messi. Messi, if you are ready for the Q&A session, I know we have a few questions from the audience. So please, Messi, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Mtuchi. We have quite interesting questions. And the first one is for both panelists, Khadija and Yesaya. A trader is asking, corporates commonly cite security as obstacles to providing endpoints and connectivity to APIs. Vodacom only recently made their API publicly and available. So how can developers advise in terms of overcoming these major obstacles to partnering? So we can start with Yesaya and then Khadija.
Okay, thank you, Messi. I think that's a difficult question, because the API by itself, it is the agreement between the two parties, the one who try to access data and the one which want to receive those data. So if these parties are not comfortable to each other, I think that handshake or that API will not be possible. But the company like Vodacom and other companies, I think big company around the world, the reason why they push this API to the public is API can bring innovation inside and outside the organization. I think this is a huge focus for many corporates that understand well the power of API. So what I can recommend at these organizations which are struggling to expose their API, I think they could view this in a bigger picture, that if you try to put in public different APIs that provide service to the community, I think it could bring innovation from outside, not necessarily always from inside the corporate, and therefore can help the entire community.
Okay, what about you, Khadija?
Yeah, I completely agree with what Isaiah just explained. And like if we are scared to go public with our endpoints or with our data, then there is no innovation per se. And being scared is not, or maybe, so we just need to be, I would say, for local developers. So first of all, if you look at the security issues, yes, they are there, and API being something that delivers data, it is vulnerable to such incidents. I mean, it's vulnerable for API reverse engineering and so on. So for local developers, we need to be very keen, or I would say, we need to be keen, or we need first to understand the architecture of the API that's out there. So whether it's Vodacom or whatever API that you're looking at, I mean, be confident with the architecture, be confident with how they have their security issue details. Like, I mean, all this should be explained on the service level agreement as well. Like, what security are there that they are using? So if it's Vodacom, so what security are there? And you as an endpoint or as a business that want to use this public endpoint or this API, you need to, sort of like confirm with it and understand the risk as well, because there will always be risks, and security is among them. And API being valuable asset to this economy is something that's very prone to security. So I agree with what Isaiah has mentioned earlier. So apart from, the handshake and everything, all the security that are there, as a local developer, you just need to be confident, and you need to understand what are those security. You need to understand the vulnerabilities as well, the risk that are there, whatever architecture that they decided to use, and make decision moving forward.
All right. Timothy Alwinia is asked. He says that he's fairly new to the whole concept of APIs, but he accepts the challenge. So he says that I do have programming experience. Where would you advise me to start? And then he says he does web development. Yes, that's for you.
Thank you, Messi. I think that's a good question from Thomas. Where to start always comes from what you are doing, because as much you are doing, much practices, you figure that, and in trying to solve different problems. So that is when if you are doing more exercise, you're becoming to solve different challenges. And later point, you will figure out that, okay, I need this service, but someone else is offering. I need to connect to the payment. I think, okay, I can connect with Beam APIs in order to fluently connect with that API. Or maybe I need a one-time password like OTP for my users to be able to access. And it's already, this API is already being handled by Beam Africa. So I need that API to connect with my system. So what I can say, more practice, and then he could start to find the requirement to build API for the challenge or problem that. Thank you.
Yeah, so at this point, I think we will give a chance to people who have more questions. You can just raise your hand and we'll let you in.
Okay, Miss, I think I have something to add regarding the security, which Hadija reminded me. Can I proceed?
Yes,
Just one
yes,
more.
sure. Yes.
Okay, thank you. I think Hadija reminded me that, for example, we are talking about the corporate that have exposed their API. This corporate can create something called a sandbox, a place where developer can make practices in there. And what's the benefit of doing this is to make sure that they understand even the challenges that they were not foreseen. Right now, you can say security is a problem, but if you give this to the people to try it, to make experimentation at it, you can learn more and find the challenges which you didn't anticipate of security and the other issues regarding your product. I think I just wanted to point that there should be more sandboxes to the corporate to test their APIs to the public and make sure that they learn from the different research and testing that people are doing without, they could learn more problem which they didn't anticipate.
Okay, great. Yes, just before we wind this up, there's a question for you from Peter Maker. He's asking, does Tanzania Ports Authority have any APIs for developers to access?
I'm not sure if there is, and because I think it's better if I don't answer that. But for what I know, I think we don't have.
Okay, great. So Mtuchi, you want to take over? We have 5 people who've raised their hand.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mercy, for coordinating the Q&A session. So for those who have raised your hands, Noah will add you to the panelists so that you can share what you want to share with us if you want to speak. In the meantime, I would like to give a bit of announcement. Not announcement per se, but I would like to welcome Taha so that he can talk a little bit about the Beemathon and the developer challenge program. So Taha, if you are around, can you please tell us a little bit about Beam and Beemathon?
Okay, hi everyone. So we're kicking off the Beemathon now, I guess at 6. So everyone who signed up or registered on the Beemathon challenge link should have received emails inviting them to the Slack channel. I've also posted the Slack channel link here on this Zoom, so people can join the Slack channel there. And the instructions for the challenge are on that Slack channel. You will also receive an email with the instructions for the challenge itself and what you need to submit. I'm also posting them here but it's a bit jumbled because of the formatting, but you can read them. Just to summarize how the challenge will work, the theme of the challenge is solving problems or challenges for SMEs. We have a lot of SMEs across Africa, and technology and innovation can really help boost them and in turn grow our economy and their livelihoods as well. So the challenge is that how do we develop something for SMEs using the Beam APIs. These SMEs could be, retail shops. It could be, organizations such as schools or religious institutions, service businesses, agencies, etc., etc. The main challenges that they may be facing are around communicating with their customers, managing their operations, or collecting information from their customers, or selling to their customers. Some of these organizations and these SMEs may also be online, so they may have a website or an e-commerce shop, or they may be on social media like Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, etc. So how can we help these organizations using our APIs? So you need to build something that can be a standalone application or a tool, or it can be an existing plugin, a plugin for an existing open source solution that you develop. The main criteria is that it has to use one of Beam's APIs, and the doc, the link to the API docs is there on that everyone can see, or you can also find it on our website. So the Slack channel will be the main point of communication for all participants. We'll be there, our support team, our developers, our marketing folks, everyone will be on the Slack channel as well to help answer your questions. Our facilitators, Josh and Tucci, will also be there to help with any challenges. And we will be there to answer your questions and guide you through the process. But that is the challenge overall. And you can use any of the APIs that are listed so that to build around them. We'll be, the final submission is at 9 a.m. on Saturday, the 17th. We've changed the format slightly, so we will not be doing a physical event for a number of reasons, but primarily because there's just too many people now who are participating. So we're really excited about that. So we won't be doing a physical event, it'll be a virtual submission. And then we may call some finalists to re-explain their solution or their submission, but we may not need that. Each participant can, or the team can just submit their final submission at the link provided. Okay. Everyone who submits will get a certificate and swag from Beam, and the winners obviously will get the prizes that were listed, for third place, second place, and first place. Okay. Any questions immediately from participants or people that are going to be participating in the Beemathon?
Okay, so if you have any question, you can raise your hand or you can drop it in the chat, and then Mes can pick it up. Thank you so much, Ta, for sharing that. So if you haven't joined the Slack channel or device, you join that. A lot of resource and communication will go through that for those who are in the challenge. And now if you see people raise hand, you can add them in the panelists so that we can take their question.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. So before we do that, we start accepting questions from that. Maybe Noah, we can take this moment now to talk about PyCon and the future activity that we're planning for PyCon.
Okay, I think we can switch that around first. Let's first get people to ask Taha.
Right,
Taha,
yeah.
you're there. So
Okay.
let's just finish with Taha, and then we can talk about PyCon. So I have a number of people who have raised hands. I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'll start with the person at the top, Medson Naftali. So Medson Naftali, I'm giving you the right to speak. So please go ahead and speak and mute yourself.
Okay, thank you. Of course, I enjoy the presentation from those who are presented about the API, and I was learning a lot. So I'm ready to join the community. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you all. I will be participating on challenge and I will make better. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So that was not a question, more of a comment. So I'll now allow Mustafa Jiwaji to speak. Please, Mustafa, go ahead. If you have a question for Taha, unmute yourself. Okay, Mustafa is not talking. I'll give the next person, which is Peter Daniel. Peter Daniel, if you have something to say, unmute yourself.
Yes, I'm Peter Daniel, the backend developer, the CTO from the company called Tech Engineering Company in Dar es Salaam, Kinondoni B. So we have seen your API and it's very interesting, and we've passed through some of the services that are offered. Of course, it's really nice, and we are so interested for this challenge. So what I wanted to ask, because we are developing many softwares, and our customers are just asking us about the many services, and of course, most of the services, some of them may be having so many requests at once. So what I wanted is that to have that proof or assurance that that your API that you are providing is having that concurrence and resilient issues that have been considered for the case that many people, they want to utilize your API. How are you going to assure to us that this API that you're providing for us is going to serve that? Because most of our customers will be asking us that we have maybe 10,000 users or 100,000 users that are going to have a certain service, maybe notification, message, or transaction. So we want that assurance so that anytime we have any client who wants any service, we can switch to this API and we can work with it happily. So I hope my question is clearly understood. The concurrence and the resilient issue is your API considering that, and about how is your API going to handle many requests at once? That's what I need to know, the assurance of that.
Yeah, thank you. Those are very good questions. And, you know, probably that's something that also the panelists could have mentioned as things that need to be considered for APIs, that scale and reliability are very important. So just to kind of, from Beam's perspective, yes, they can handle the volume and scale, where our platforms already handle kind of millions of transactions currently. So, and they've been load tested to work. So that you can be assured of. And in terms of kind of just to give you some insights into how we've developed it, you know, it's a microservice architecture, and it's hosted, it's cloud hosted with Kubernetes. So there's load balancing and other things that are kind of set up on the infrastructure side to handle that load and scale with the requests. Yeah, I hope that answers some of your questions and your concerns.
Thank you, Taha. So I'll allow the next person on the queue, which is Novat Tarimo. Novat Tarimo, you have been given permission to speak. Please go ahead. Unmute yourself.
Okay, hello everybody. My name is Novat Thomas, and I'm software developer from Zepson Technologies. And my question is focused on privacy and the cost of the service. as we were working with a certain company regarding the SMS service. So for the case of privacy, suppose I'm using your service in most of the project of my client, or even in our company internal projects. So how sure am I that the messages that I'm sending to my client or receiving are fully encrypted? Like you're not reading my messages. That is the first question. The second question is the issue of cost. Most of the API providers in Tanzania mostly, they don't put like those pricing information in their website. It's like I have to call and start bargaining for the price. You know, it is not like very clear compared to the other providers from outside Africa. So I think why shouldn't you put like a fixed price, so that because it might happen that the same service, but two different clients maybe requiring the same service in the same volume, but the issue of cost is different. Another one is charged much, and another one is charged is being charged low. So will you please like put the entire cost fully open so that everyone can get the idea, instead of putting like things like bargaining the cost? Yeah, especially for USSD and two-way SMSs. I see no one is putting that information in the public. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Moat. Thank you for your feedback. So yes, we are working. We've taken steps. We've kind of published all our pricing for SMS across all our countries on our platform. So if you go even right now, you can see the pricing for SMS across the board. We haven't published the pricing as yet for two-way SMS and USSD, but we'll probably be adding those in the near future. The reason sometimes we aren't able to list the pricing because there's a lot of nuances and variations in terms of what service you want, how you want it to run. You know, is it a shared, is it a dedicated? What kind of volume are you sending? All of these things vary, and sometimes it's easier to understand the client's requirements and give them an estimate or a quotation based on that. But definitely for things that are standard like SMS, we've published our pricing already. And wherever we think it's standard, we will look to publish that pricing on the platform, on our website, and also when you create an account, you'll see the pricing directly there.
Okay, thank you, Taha. I think we have so many people raising hands. I'm not sure if we have enough time and if we will be able to go through all of them. I'm looking for some sort of gender balance, but most of the names are for men. Okay, the next person is Matungwa Geoffrey. So Matungwa Geoffrey, I'm giving you a chance to speak. Please go ahead and mute yourself.
Thank you very much. Hi everybody. I am a software developer here in Bukoba, Tanzania. So my question goes out to the challenge that is current. Am I allowed to use my current application, the one I'm using, or the one I've already designed already, to use that application and then embed the Beam APIs in this challenge? That was my simple question.
No, that you're not allowed to use an existing application that you already have.
All right.
But you're welcome to use our APIs on your application for future.
Okay, thank you, Taha. So Seraphine, please go ahead. I've given you a chance to speak. Seraphine, unmute yourself.
Right, thank you. Yeah, so my question was partly already asked before, but I just wanted to add one more question, and it's around the costs that in this new product which you have to develop. I know most of times when you are dealing with with APIs, there are some costs associated to it. So I was wondering, like, has been provided any sort of package, like when we are developing these services for these challenges particularly, which should cover for those costs, or we also have to purchase those, let's say if it is SMS or any other related stuffs which might have cost, do we have to purchase them, or there's some arrangement where you guys can avail the cost?
Yeah, we will give you test credits for things that need them. So like SMS or airtime, we give you some test credits.
All right.
You can do it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Peter Hamisi, you are next.
Hello.
We can hear you. Go ahead.
All right. So my question is very quick and simple. I joined the meeting late when it's almost over. So I was asking if I was curious if missing the webinar is going to affect my performance on the challenge. So that's the only question I have, because I missed almost everything.
No.
Thank you.
Yeah, so if in case somebody joined late, you're not missing anything, like Taha said, so please join the challenge because this was meant to basically touch base on the challenge anyway and launch it. So you've not missed anything. Joshua John, please go ahead and speak. Joshua, you have unmuted yourself. Please speak. If you have a question, please ask. Okay, something wrong with Joshua. I will go to the next person. Jeremiah Ngerema, I've given you permission to speak. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Jeremiah from TrueBase Technology. I think my question just came across just right now. I came also late. I was wondering if we can have recordings of this webinar.
Yes, we will have the recordings for this webinar, and the recording will be uploaded on YouTube at a later stage after it's been edited. So please, we will share this information with all of you.
Thank you.
Karibu. Next, Timothy Winia, sorry. If you have a question for Taha, please.
It's Timothy Awinia.
Okay.
I was asking, where do we post our work after it's done? Like after we have created our project, where do we post? Because there was a message sent in the chat, but the URL section was blank.
Yeah, so we'll be posting that URL shortly. Once you are on Slack, you'll see all of the final submission details. But you'll basically have to post your URL for your repository or your whatever you.
So we basically have to post like GitHub repository or wherever we've uploaded it.
Yes.
Okay.
So I think the next person is Bless Ngongola. Bless, go ahead.
Hi everyone. So I have this question. As I have been using Beam API for I think more than 4 years now since it was Bongo Live. So are we allowed to use the same account we're using for API, or we only need to create new with the emails that we have been registered on this Beemathon? That is
you can use it. If you have an existing account, you can use that as well. It's not a problem.
Okay, thank you.
But your final submission will need to be with the same email that you registered with.
Thank you.
Joseph Chuchu, you are the third last person, so on the queue. Go ahead. Joseph, please speak. Chuchu. Okay, Joseph is not speaking. I will lower that and give Joel Gonza. Go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, thank you. My name is Gonza Joel, software developer, particularly pre-race. I have 4 questions. What kind of solution we should develop? The first question, and solutions. Also, the question, the services. Is your service providing API for notification platform? I mean, iOS, Android, and the other platforms. A third question is, if someone wants Beam products such as bulk SMS and push services, are price negotiable and are you offering a best price compared to a giant companies such as Vodafone and other companies, your competitive advantage against them?
Okay. Thank you, Joel, for your question. So our pricing is on our website as like for, let's say, for SMS, and if you have any other specific services like two-way SMS or USSD that you want, you can request it from the platform, and our sales team will assist you with the pricing. In terms of why customers work with us and how our prices compare, I think our pricing is pretty competitive compared to other providers. Why do providers use us? I think we've been around for a long time. People understand the reliability of our services and our customer service. Also, the same API will work for you across multiple countries. So we cover a lot of countries across Africa and across the world as well. So if you don't have to do separate integrations for these things. And yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
Okay, so thank you. I think for the best interest of time, I'll just stop here with the Q&As. I'm sorry, guys, there are so many people, but I think the last person who will ask a question is Innocent Charles, and then we move on to the next part.
Notification. Au mtu akitumiwa kitu tuone notification.
Innocent, please go ahead and speak. Hello, Innocent? Okay, I think that was Taha.
Yeah,
I think we have pretty much exhausted most of them. I still have a number of people raising their hands. Some of them have already spoken. I'm not sure if I need.
I'll just quickly try to answer some of the questions that are in the chat. Yeah. One person had asked about privacy. So in terms of SMS itself, the SMS technology doesn't allow encryption. So it has to be kind of readable text, and it passes through our system in that way, and the operators receive it in that way as well. So there's no way we can encrypt it, unfortunately. So that hopefully that will answer your question. Okay. A lot of questions around the Beam challenge itself. So all of the questions will be answered on the Slack channel. If you have any additional questions, we can answer them there. The API keys, everything will be available once you sign up on login.beam.africa. If you create an account, you can get your API keys. All the instructions for using our APIs are on our API documentation pages. The judging criteria and kind of rules of engagement will be posted on Slack as well. So you'll be able to see them in terms of what the judges will be looking at. It can be a web, it can be a mobile app. So it's up to you, kind of, we've left it open so that way people have flexibility and there can be innovation around our APIs. Okay. Just trying to move quickly through the questions if I. Yeah, I think that answers most of the questions. Yeah, Daniel asked about the swag. We won't be able to deliver the swag outside Tanzania, unfortunately. But if you're ever in Dar es Salaam, you're happy to come pick it up. About language, it can be in English or in Swahili. Yeah, ideally we would like it to stay in English, but if you have to submit in Swahili, you can do that as well. Yeah, I think that answers the questions. If you're participating from outside Tanzania, if you do win the prize, yes, we will send you the prize money outside Tanzania, but the swag, unfortunately, we cannot send you outside. Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Okay.
I think, you wanted to talk about Python as well, please.
Yeah, sure. So thank you, Taha, for answering most of those questions and basically at least responding back to most of the participants. And thank you, the participants, for asking the questions, because I think those were very useful for Beam and especially for this challenge. But for any other pending questions which you have, like Beam have indicated, there is a Slack channel. So please just ask any of those follow-up questions there. And the guys will be able to respond to you. So as you are aware, obviously this Beemathon is being organized in collaboration with PyCon Tanzania. And PyCon Tanzania is basically a community of Python software developers, especially Pythonistas, those who are really passionate about Python. It's a big group of developers, and the community itself meets through physical meetings, conferences, and we also have some sort of platforms which we use to communicate. One, a Telegram group, and we also have a Discord group. So I shared, I think, the links for those, but these have nothing to do with directly the Beemathon. But you will find it useful joining those specific two groups. We also have a mailing list. Mailing lists are not common in Tanzania, but they are really common in the global community for developers to share information. And we normally post actually some of these things on the mailing list, some of these information which is useful to the developer community on the mailing lists. So in case you need to join the mailing lists, the mailing list is hosted by the Python Software Foundation mailing list platform, and the URL can be found on the python.or.tz website in case you need to join the mailing list. However, for the Telegram and Discord group, you can join them through the links which we shared. In case somebody joined late, I'll just, I think, paste that again. into the chat. Yeah, those are the Discord and Telegram groups. So you can join and then be part of the conversation. We will be having a conference sometime this year in Arusha, since we've held 2 conferences here in Dar es Salaam. So we are going regional to the remote towns. So we'll have a conference in Arusha sometime this year, and we will welcome all developers to join and be part of the conversation. And events like the Beemathon organized by Beam are important for the ecosystem and the developer community because they bring us together, but they also enable us to meet and discuss some of these challenges and else also seek answers for some of the pertinent questions we may have. So Python community will continue to collaborate with the industry, and in this case, we are collaborating with Beam Africa to have this Beemathon, which all of you are now participating in, and we intend to do the same with any other organization so that we at least get the developer community in Tanzania really technically involved in some of these, in resolving and solving some of the challenges facing Tanzania today. So that is all about Python community, the PyCon conference, and what I could say for now. For those who want to get more information about Python community, go to the website python.or.tz, python.or.tz. .or.tz and PyCon for the conference.or.tz. So those URLs will send you to the right place. Thank you so much, and I'll hand over the mic back to Mtuchi.
Thank you so much, Noah. That was really helpful. We are heading towards the end of our session. I would like, first of all, to thank my panelists. There's a lot of things going behind the scenes, so thank you so much, my co-host, for the effort and the time that you've put together, we have spent to put together this session. I also would like to thank my guest panelists, Khadija and Yesaya, for taking time out of your busy schedule and make sure that we have this wonderful session here today. So thank you so much, guys, for joining us. And for the audience, maybe just to emphasize on the information that was shared here today, for those who are in challenge, who are participating in the challenge, please make sure you join the Slack channel. You'll get all the information necessary for the challenge, and if you need support, you also get support there. You can find myself there as Mtuchi. You can tag me if you have any questions. Josh also will be available there, and other wonderful team members from Beam Africa will be available there. So please make sure that you follow, you sign into Slack for further information. And if you'd like to join the PyCon community, as Noah mentioned, the link for Discord and Telegram group, you can join us for future announcement. So thank you so much, guys, for this wonderful session. Maybe from my panelists, is there anything you guys would like to add?
No,
yes,
thank you, everyone.
No, from my side.
Okay. Yes, sir.
And no, I was just saying thank you to Yesaya and Khadija and Tucci for hosting and discussing on the panel today.
Thank you so much, Tara, for that. It's really nice. Messi, do you have anything to add?
I'd just like to mention that there might be a delay in adding credits to your account. So please be patient until tomorrow since it's already end of the day.
Thank you so much, Messi, for sharing that information. Josh, do you have anything to add, Chief?
Thank you, Mtuchi. Well, not exactly, but rather just want to say thank you for everyone. Thank you my most appreciation goes out to Khadija and Yesaya. Thank you very much for making the time. We really appreciate all the insights, the thoughts, the experience you've been able to share in this webinar.